How's it going, dudes? Help a Cam out here. I'm moving around pretty often, and to prevent boredom, I need to find a game that is both single player and portable. You know, something that can be played pretty much anywhere, at the park, in a bar, or on a yacht, see? Yahtzee is what I would describe as a background game. Most people wouldn't actively base a night around it, but chances are that you know somebody who owns a copy somewhere. Don't sleep on the background games though, as they tend to be some of the highest sellers on the market, and Yahtzee is no different. But even background games will need to innovate in order to stay relevant. So let's jump into the weird world of Yahtzee's many attempts to break into your household and see just how wacky we can get along the way. We can break up the Yahtzee editions using the same categories that we did with Monopoly: themed editions and revamped editions. The themed editions are the most fun, of course, being just standard versions of the game with that one guy/thing slapped on it so that fans of the series lose their gosh dang minds over it. But Yahtzee faces a unique problem in this area, as since the entire game is made up of just cup, dice, and paper, there is very little room for error when crafting a tie-in. The cup is especially important, as it has the greatest opportunity to inject the game with personality. So screwing it up like they did with the Ghostbusters edition could really put a damper on the whole game. Slimer, a memorable character, the franchise's goofy mascot, and in the Yahtzee version, a creature of unimaginable terror. He looks like he got his face smashed in by a frying pan. I mean, the dice look great. They've got this transparent green look with memorable equipment on it, but this is what I mean by the cup makes the version, because what are you going to do with this? Put it on the mantle as a conversation starter. The only thing you'll get is, what's the matter with you? Luckily, fumbles like these are pretty rare, as instead of going for the scary look, most of the time Yahtzee themed editions are all competing to try to break the record for goofiest looking cup on the market. The Muppets Collector's Edition, featuring your very own decapitated Kermit the Frog. The dice feature some of your favorite Muppets characters, and while it would be cool to roll the dice out of Kermit's mouth, you have to do it out of his neck hole instead. This brings up an interesting issue with these character cups, as while Kermit does look great, his odd head shape practically guarantees that you won't be able to get a clean roll out of it. But with the easiest cup idea being notable character's head, plenty of other well-known figures have been French Revolutioned for your entertainment, including Oogie Boogie, the shark from Jaws, Ultron, and does Pac-Man count? How do you even execute a Pac-Man? Out of these four, Pac-Man takes the best dice award, being the only one with images on it, although Oogie Boogie does have a cool design on his. Each of these cups come with their own quirks. Oogie Boogie and Pac-Man will both benefit from the wide bottom to roll, although the man will be a little harder to hold. Ultron's well-defined chin can cause a bunch of issues, as dice will often get stuck in there on rolls. On top of how Ultron just looks really sad to be here for some reason. And the Jaws one just makes me mad. Great design on the box, and you'd think with that big open mouth you'd roll the dice out of there, yeah? No, you're meant to unscrew his neck hole and roll out of there, because the mouth isn't deep enough to shake the dice. Well, that one's on me. Why would I expect a shark to eat something? My bad, guys. Of course, you don't have to mutilate a favorite character to have them be the cup, as the My Little Pony, Borderlands, and M&M's editions prove. Upon further review, they're telling me that this is just a standard peanut M&M, so misplaced game, that's a 5U penalty and a loss of down. These ones are pretty fun. Some people might be turned away by the simplicity of the M&M, but I'm just glad it's a fun shape and functions as a cup. Being edible would be cool too, but that would impact the game's replayability, so I can see why they left that out. The Borderlands edition is really cool. The Claptrap cup is so high quality that I originally thought it was just a statue, but no, the top opens for smooth dice rolling action, probably the best one we've seen so far. And the My Little Pony edition comes with a jar-proof rainbow dash design that could cause an issue with rolling, but would make great decor for fans of the show. With how many of these games suffer with dice rolling issues from their design, some of the games instead go for function over fashion with their cups, while still trying to add some flair. Versions like Back to the Future, Donkey Kong, A Christmas Story, and Dragon Ball Z all feature cups that guarantee a smooth dice rolling experience while still tying into their properties. The Donkey Kong version, of course, bringing out the iconic barrel design with characters from country on the dice. The A Christmas Story version lets you roll your dice out of the Fragile box, while the Dragon Ball Z version lets you roll right out of the 4-star ball. This one is a strangey. It's more rolling out of a bowl than a cup, and with it being slightly transparent, you will be able to see all of the components inside it if you store them in there. The one that does not have that issue though is the Back to the Future one, which was basically made to be displayed, as the flux capacitor cup that you use to play can also light up. I really like their decision on the cup design. There are more big money parts from the movies that they could use, but Back to the Future fans likely already have the car or the characters, so a light up flux capacitor could be a missing piece that some fans would love to have. And we have now reached the point of the themed editions where any and all semblance of reason has been thrown out the window. How this subsegment will work is I will give you what show or brand the version is for, and you will need to try to guess what they based the cup off of. If you can get even 2 of them, you win a sense of pride and accomplishment. We'll start off with an easy one. Family Guy. There's a lot to choose from here. Maybe a Peter Griffin head, maybe a Stewie time machine, the Drunken Clam Bar, the Griffin House. Nope. We've got the Hendon Peter. Brother, this isn't even the best Peter vehicle. I mean, it functions great as a cup, but like, why? Next up, we've got the hit television program Glee. I'm sure there are a bunch of memorable characters, maybe a school bus, a trophy. I don't watch the show. Do they have Glee contests? Incorrect. The official Glee Yahtzee version uses an overflowing blue slushie with Glee written on the cup. Glee fans, please let me know if this has any lore significance at all, as to the common man it looks like just another example if you can't spell Glee without L. A more niche one here, it's Firefly, the space show with a fanbase in constant pain. I'm more surprised that this one even got a version at all. Nevertheless, the Firefly Yahtzee edition lets you use the entire gosh dang ship as your cup, discarding the entire back portion here to use. What I find funny is the very first line of the official product description is just, "There's no canceling this game," years later, and they still won't let the fans' wounds heal. Poor guys. And finally, Yahtzee Harley Davidson. This one's tricky. Would it be a motorcycle? A wheel? The logo? What would you use from the Harley Davidson brand that would work as a cup? Well, you missed the most obvious answer. A beer can with the Harley Davidson logo slapped on it, of course. Now, while I was looking through each of these bad boys, I began to notice some similarities between copies. Similar dice structure, similar head shape, similar branding styles. The pattern recognition alarm was going wee woo wee woo. So after looking into these a little closer, I found out that every single one of these Yahtzees was made by the same company. USAopoly, also known as the Op. On top of that, not a single one of those games are even on the market anymore. So seeing as they basically hold a monopoly over the themed Yahtzee editions, I wanted to see some of the new stuff that they had been coming out with. Needless to say, one thing led to another, and they ended up actually sending me a bunch of the newer Yahtzee versions. And if you thought that they might have calmed down over the years, I'm here to tell you that I am now the proud owner of Sriracha Hot Chili Sauce Yahtzee. Go ahead and check that one off your KamSandwich bingo card. I got a bunch of these things, so to keep it short, I'll be highlighting some of my favorites and one that I am unbelievably angry at. Yahtzee National Parks. Pretty standard edition here with the national park theming. What's cool about this one though is that it's a travel edition. The score pad is designed to be smaller than normal, and the top of the cup can actually double as a small tray, meaning that you could reasonably play this in a car on a road trip to pass the time. Yahtzee Naruto Shippuden. Have I seen the show? Not a single episode, but if I remember right, this swing is important for some reason. This version isn't perfect. The dice feature a lot of golds and yellows that can make it hard to see what symbol it is, so you'll be going off of the small numbers a lot. Now that that's out of the way, this bowl is quite literally perfect in every way. Instead of shaking the cup like normal, you stir this one before you roll, making it like you're actually cooking something, which will probably upset some Yahtzee purists, but I think just feels fantastic. Plus, if your friend drops a die while stirring it, you can shame them for being a bad cook, which adds more stress and fun to the rolls. And my two favorite versions by far, the devastating 1-2 combo of Sriracha Hot Chili Sauce Yahtzee and Cup Noodles Yahtzee. Now you may see yourself asking, why? When the correct question to ask is, huh? You are looking live at official versions of Yahtzee based around a cup of microwavable noodles and a bottle of hot sauce. If your immediate reaction is not along the lines of, I need you to have a friend go check your pulse, because you might have died and I cannot trust your judgment. As soon as I saw this, I fell right in love with it. We need more games like these out there. Something that is a good gift for exactly one person, and that person is me. Now that I've spent the last however many minutes being moderately happy, we need to balance that off with some unyielding rage. See, I was really excited about one particular version that got sent my way. The Wednesday version. I've never seen the show, so for all I know, this is about the day of the week. But what got me excited is that this is the only version where you can't see the components inside of the box. And with that custom coffin box looking as awesome as it does, you know there's about to be some stellar stuff in here, especially with whatever they choose to make the cup. So without reading the fine print on the back of the box, I open this bad boy up in front of my friends and behold the no cup that is included in the Wednesday version. This is the only edition on the site that does not come with a cup, meaning they either expect you to roll the dice right out of the box or with your hands. I'm sure I'd be less angry at this if the other versions weren't home runs, and to be fair, the dice are cool, but having a Yahtzee version without a cup really reminds you that you can play this game at home with any standard set of dice if you want to. And that point is where we move into the revamped editions and the unique challenges faced by that group. You see, making a revamped version of Monopoly has a lot of opportunity behind it. You can change how some spaces work, you can add new mechanics, you can alter the win condition. There are a ton of different things that you can do while still keeping the core of Monopoly intact. But for Yahtzee, there are really only two mechanics: roll dice and save the ones you like. So how do you revamp a game so simple without altering the core gameplay into something completely different? This is the question that Milton Bradley tried to answer multiple times, to varying degrees of success. So let's start off our second group of these bad boys with the logical next step after regular single Yahtzee. Did we skip a step somewhere? Triple Yahtzee. This 1972 title went for the simplest revamp idea of the regular game, but more. Triple Yahtzee's main shtick is that you are playing 3 games of Yahtzee at the same time, with 3 columns for each scoring section that you can put rolls into. But on top of that, the second and third columns have an added bonus, as scores put in there are worth double and triple points respectively. This is showcased even more in the Yahtzee column, as you'd think if you roll a Yahtzee, that's going straight into the triple column for a crisp 150. Hot dog. But if you're feeling lucky, you could put the score in the single column to unlock the ability to win chips. And with these, each additional Yahtzee will get points added on top of them. Your second Yahtzee earning you 200 and the third Yahtzee earning you 350, if you can pull it off. This is the most simple revamp you can make to the game, just making you play more of it. But the added multipliers do shake up the game pretty well for a new experience, if you're willing to sit through 3 full games worth of dice rolling for it. Love rolling dice but scared of numbers? We've got you covered with Word Yahtzee. This 1978 title has players roll 7 dice that feature various letters, and you must select which dice to keep and which to roll again to make the highest scoring words. Each letter has its own value like in Scrabble, so when filling out your score sheet with 3, 4, 5 letter words, your creativity and literacy will decide if you can make a word that can get a big score. Devastating blow to my illiterates out there. We'll get them next time. The scorecard also comes with the specialty scoring sections, like making 3 words out of 7 letters, rolling all consonants or all vowels, and the Yahtzee of this game being able to make a 7-letter word, one of which of course being the titular one. Pretty stellar revamp here. You have the pure Yahtzee gameplay loop, but with new elements that force you to approach it differently to the original. But this is where we reach the end of the simple revamps, as you can only do so much to a mostly single-player game like this before you straight run out of ideas. New from Yahtzee, we added an extra die, buy it. So Milton Bradley put their nose to the limestone and got to work. And after seeing how much fun people were having competing to score higher than their friends, they began to release their very own line of competitive Yahtzee titles, each one being more complicated and funny looking than the last. Challenge Yahtzee, featuring everyone's favorite on-screen duo, Tony Randall and Jack Klugman. I'm more of an Andy Griffith and Don Knotts guy myself. Challenge Yahtzee sees players compete to get the highest score by outthinking their opponents in the way they play the rolls. How this game works is each player gets their own set of white dice to mark their saves, and one player will roll the red dice set in the middle of the tray. Based on the red numbers rolled, each player will mark which numbers they would like to save with their dice in their section. This loop continues until a full game is finished, and whoever has the highest score at the end is the winner. I love that despite the game being mostly luck, they constantly reinforce the fact that you need to outthink, outstrategize, and outsmart your opponent to win. It creates this environment that the winner will be the one who can read the dice and predict the future, and makes winning feel way better. The rules can be very confusing on first read, as the rounds take a tiered roll structure, but once you figure it out, it is actually pretty simple. Hard to learn, easy to play, just like euchre. I can see this one being a solid time. A lot of stress can come from needing the right die roll to prove you are smarter than your friend, so as the game goes on, the reactions will be getting louder and louder. Ever wanted to play Yahtzee as a standard board game? What do you mean no? Of course you do. Here.
Introducing Showdown Yahtzee, the first Yahtzee board game with all the hot Yahtzee action.
Hey, that sack of crap stole my line! Showdown Yahtzee, also known as Casino Yahtzee to the Dutch, Challenge Yahtzee to the British, and just straight up Yahtzee in Spanish. Good, I'd hate for us to get confused. Showdown Yahtzee has players get in on the hot Yahtzee action by moving around the board trying to claim squares by rolling different dice combos. For instance, if you land on an open space and then roll a total of 3 sixes, you can place the sixes card on that square to claim it. If someone else lands on that square or a wild, they can either try to match or beat your score to steal that square from you, but we'll need to do it on just sixes. A 4 of a kind on 5s won't steal the sixes card. Yahtzees will allow you to take any card or space, and the game ends once all the spaces are claimed and the showdown round ends. Yahtzee was not designed to be a board game, so as you can imagine, morphing it into this format is going to result in some jank. The most exciting part of the game is going to be the showdown round for sure. Once all of the spaces are claimed, each player gets one more turn to try to move and steal, and that turn does not end until you fail to steal a space. So if you've saved all your luck until the end, you could go on a California shopping spree, snatching up all kinds of spaces to massively change the score structure right at the end. That or everybody just fails on their first try and the game just ends. But hey, that's Yahtzee, you never know. In terms of a standard board game, it's pretty mid. But in terms of a Yahtzee board game, I don't know how I'd change this to make it better. I think they did the best they could. Sometimes you just get stuck with a bad roll. So fill out that chance space and let's hope for a 4 of a kind here. Jackpot Yahtzee. Gambling? No. Jackpot Yahtzee sees players compete to drop tiles into their rack to score points. Players roll the 4 dice, and if any symbols match, they can drop a tile of that symbol into their rack. Players score points for 3, 4, or 5 in a row, with more points being awarded for rarer symbols. The player with the most points when all the racks are filled wins. This is a sort of combo of Connect 4 and Azul, requiring a lot of both planning and luck to prevent you from screwing yourself over. The $sign is the most valuable symbol, but it is also the most rare on the dice. So each person is going to have a different way that they will approach this risk-reward scenario. But there's an issue here. If you've been paying attention, you've noticed we've been straying further and further from the standard Yahtzee gameplay. And with this one, we've hit the point of no return. Other than rolling dice out of a cup, which for some reason here looks like a jar of peanut butter, this game has nothing to do with Yahtzee at all. Unfortunately, this trend would continue, and once Hasbro took control, they would release the least Yahtzee of all time. Yahtzee Texas Hold'em. Gambling? Yes. Alright! Yahtzee Texas Hold'em sees players play exactly 0 Yahtzee anywhere in this entire game. Dice take the place of poker cards, with each color representing a different suit. Players draw and roll 2 dice out of the bag secretly for their hand. Then more dice are drawn and rolled for the flop, turn, and river. Whoever has the best poker hand wins the round, whoever wins all the money wins the game. Where is the Yahtzee here? Is it the dice? No, you can't save or re-roll those. There's a cup. The cup was the most important part of themed editions because you're just playing standard Yahtzee. When dealing with revamps, the most important part is the gameplay and how it relates to the original. of which here, there is no relation. Now you can get 5 of a kind for a kind of Yahtzee, but at that point you're getting it off of 7 dice, so it means way less. This is dice Texas Hold'em and nothing else, but to be fair, it does work well as that. So if your buddies want to toss some money in and run around, you could get some fun out of it. Just be very careful with who you are playing with and how much you are playing for, as there is one rule in this game that can cause a huge stink for those with skin in the game. You see, Dice Texas Hold'em follows the same betting structure, the same hand style, and the same card win chart. But replacing the Royal Flush as the most powerful card combo in the game is the Yahtzee Flush, achieved by matching 5 of the same numbers, all of the same colored dice. Realistically, this is just as likely to happen as a straight flush in Dice Hold'em, since that also requires 5 specific numbers of the same dice color. But while the straight flush will pretty much always win you the round, the Yahtzee flush carries the added effect of instantly winning you the entire game. Do not play this game with real money. Remember that the amount bet here does not matter, as the game is over. So if your buddy is down to his last dollar and Yahtzee flushes everyone's money into his pocket, I've just gotta say, people have killed for less. But now to our final revamped Yahtzee edition. Let's go back to 1986 when Milton Bradley was still in control and look at their crowning achievement, Casino Yahtzee. Ah, the Dutch strike again, you can't give them an inch. Casino Yahtzee carries exactly none of the hot Yahtzee action, nor resembles any game that I've seen played in a casino. That makes this a double lie, which as we know makes them cancel each other out and brings us right back to a solid Yahtzee version. How Casino Yahtzee works is players will compete to fill out lines on their board before their opponents can to score points. Players do this by rolling the numbers on the 5 dice to cover the circle sections, and can roll the dice however they want, like rolling one die 5 times, one die 3 times and another twice, or each die once. Once a player completes a row, that row is covered by a white mark, and no other player can score off of that row. So you need to be quick on your claims or you could risk being locked out. The game ends once all the rows have been claimed, and the player with the highest score wins. You need to be aware of what spaces your opponents have and which rows they are going for. These things will be flying off the board, so if you aren't paying attention and are wasting rolls on a row that someone else pretty much has locked down, you are going to be left behind fast. There is another way to score though. By declaring a bonus roll, you roll all 5 of the dice, and if none of the numbers match, you score the added total of all the numbers you rolled. Double if it's a straight. Unfortunately, this is more of a playing for second option, as it's unlikely you'll be able to consistently score this way. This does look like it would be a solid risk-reward game that would put you at odds with your friends, which we all know is the best way to have a good night. And on top of that, is probably the only place you'll be able to get an official 5 to 10 die anywhere. But look at my sweet boy, he left for college and came back unrecognizable and addicted to gambling. I've never related to a brand harder. With the last Yahtzee rolled, it is time to leave this wacky world of dice and anger. And with our journey now behind us, we look back in remembrance to the lessons we have learned along the way. While innovation can breed new and interesting ideas, sometimes it is best to stick with those traditions that helped us get to where we are now. And I gotta say, if it gets us more of this, then I'm all for it. Signing off for a tasty treat, I am KamSandwich. Thank you for watching and have a fantastic day. A special thank you to my suppliers, staff, and chefs over at the deli. If you'd like to join the crew, you can take a look using the link in the description below.